Hi guys, welcome to our student panel. Today we will be talking about just tips to learn languages. I'm Nabila and I'm here with Maria.
Hi, I'm Maria.
So yeah, I think we're just gonna start with telling you a little bit about ourselves. We are student employees here at ALTEC. I'm a third year international affairs student and I'm very passionate about languages, so that's why I'm here today to talk to you guys about this.
And a senior neuroscience and molecular biology major. And I'm also very interested in languages. And I've been working here for like 2 years and I've really, really liked it and enjoyed it. So yeah, I think we're just gonna get started.
Yeah. Okay, so the first tip that we have is to practice with your friends. I was just telling her this earlier, but honestly, I think that this is one of the best way to keep up with your language studies is to just practice. You can practice with like other people who have the same interests as you or not, and you can show your friends what you have learned, and they can practice a little too. That's always great if they're also learning a language and you guys can learn it together. But either way, practicing is a really good way to learn languages.
So another one is to find a language parent. So this is basically like a person that's very comfortable in speaking the language. Maybe they're like a native speaker, and they can be like your tutor, but it's something more like um, I don't know, like informal. So it's just like someone who will help you, who will let you know when you're like making mistakes, or like give you like tips and tricks to like like become better. And yeah, it's just like a very safe and fun way to practice.
Yeah. And then the next one is to meet more people who speak the language. I know this can be hard right now to just meet people who are native speakers of different languages, but I think with social media and everything, it's gotten a lot easier too to do it. So there's a lot of websites for you where you can go that you can go on and meet with other people that speaks another language and practice with them.
Okay, so read a lot. Reading, I think for me, it's like the best way to get familiar with the language, because that way you can just like actually see it. Because sometimes just listening is not enough. It might be like it gets confusing. So reading, you can just like read, and if you don't know a word, you have like the time to look it up, and it's also very fun. And like what we recommend is that you read something that you've already read. So maybe that like a book that you read in English or whatever your native language is, and read it again, but in the other language. So that way you know what the book is about or like what the
That's
topic
really
is.
smart. Yeah, that's really smart.
So yeah, so you just like actually know what's going on, but you're reading it again in another language. So yeah.
Yeah. Or you can also start with like children's book, you know,
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
something that's like pretty easy. Yeah. Yeah.
This next one I find really interesting. So you start with the 100 most common words. It makes sense too, because when you have these like common words memorized, then you can hold conversations, just basic conversations with other people. So yeah, when you know these words, understanding and following conversations are going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, I have friends who have done this, and they tell me like it's very interesting when you learn this 100 200 words. It's really easy to understand because there's a lot of words that we just used all the time, all the time. So if you know these, you it's very easy to understand things.
Yeah. I have another thing to say too. So I have been like watching Korean dramas for a long time, and that way I learned the most common words. And then when I got to actually wanting to learn Korean officially here at CU, my professor actually told me to just go into the intermediate class right away instead of the beginners, because I know all like the basic stuff. So yeah.
Okay. Practice every day. Like even if you only have like 10 minutes, just like practice in your head, or like do Duolingo or something, but just practice. Like don't let one day go by without like practicing, because like repeated exposure is one of the best ways that you can learn. And yeah, it's just just 10 minutes of your day. I mean, if you have more, do more.
Do more, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to forget new words too. So it's always good to keep practicing.
Yeah, if you learn like a new word, try to like use it a lot, like when you learn it, and that way it's just gonna get like stuck in your brain and you're gonna know it. You won't forget it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Know that you will make mistakes, and that's perfectly okay. Yeah. Learning and becoming fluent in a new language is really hard. I have tried to learn a lot of different languages, and it's super hard because depending on which language is your native language, it's going to be hard to learn certain languages, but that's totally fine. Don't let that stop you from practicing or being embarrassed when you try to speak to your other friends. That's why we said to find like a language parent, right? Someone you
Yeah,
can be
'cause they're
comfortable with.
yeah, they're not gonna judge you. I mean, people shouldn't judge you.
Yeah, exactly. People in general shouldn't.
Yeah.
But you'll be more comfortable with them, and then they'll be more comfortable in correcting you if you have mistakes. But yeah, making mistakes.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
fine.
remember when I was like learning English, some stuff I was just like potatoes because I'm like because I read in Spanish, it would just be like potatoes.
That's
People were
funny.
like, "That's not how you say it." I was like,
really
"Oh, okay,
funny.
okay."
Yeah,
Make mistakes. It's gonna be fine. You're gonna learn.
You're gonna learn. I have an example too. I moved here like 5 years ago from Indonesia, and I just remembered saying something like, I think it was the word foreigner, but I said foreigner. And then
that one's hard.
I know, and then my friends made fun of me, and I'm like, is it not foreigner? But it was not foreigner.
Yeah, or the world schedule.
Schedule, yeah.
I was like, that doesn't say schedule.
You're right.
But yeah. Make mistakes. It's kind of fun. Oh, okay. So this one's a really good one. Switch your computer and phone settings to like the language that you're trying to learn. And this is like a very subtle way of learning. It's not like you're gonna like become fluent by just turning your weather app into another language. But it's a really way to like, for example, like the word weather. And like if you change your phone to another language, it's gonna be like the word, I don't know, clima or whatever.
Yeah.
So okay, this is how you say this word. Yeah. And it's also like, I don't know, like a great way to just like see it all the time, like be more familiar with it. But yeah.
Practice in your head. This one, yes, you read that right. It can feel weird at first. But practicing in your head, this is one of the things that you can just do anywhere. You can do it before you go to bed. You can do it while you're in the shower. You can do it anytime. And it's always just fun to just practice in your head. So, yeah.
Yeah, and this way you can like know what things you need to work on, because maybe you're talking to yourself in, I don't know, Italian.
Yeah.
And you realize that you know all the verbs, but you're not really sure how to like conjugate them. Or maybe you're like very good at like speaking like third person, but not really good in like first person. And that's something that you can just realize if you're like talking in your head and you're like, wait, I don't know how to say this. Yeah. But yeah. Okay, so this one's, I think it's one of the most important ones, is know your motivation, like know why you're doing something. And this applies to everything in life. Like if you know why you're doing something, it becomes like easier to like do it. And not just easier, but like, I don't know, if you have the motivation and like a goal,
you'll be more willing to do it too.
Yeah, exactly. So like when it gets hard, if you have like your motivation set, it's like, okay, I'm gonna keep going. Like and like learning languages can be like very, very beneficial. So like you can like travel, communicate with relatives, or like someone that you just met that like speaks another language, or like can also like open the door to many like work opportunities and stuff. So yeah, just have your goal in mind.
Yeah, the motivation could be anything. It could your personal growth too. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. But I'm kind of curious, Maria, what is your motivation for learning new languages?
I think it really depends. Right now, I've been wanting to learn ASL because I met someone who has hearing loss. So I was like, oh, this is like, I really want to do it because I really wanted to like communicate better with them.
Yeah.
So yeah. Do you have any motivation?
Yeah, I think for me it's just personal growth and just hobbies in general. I find it really fun to just learn new languages, but also I love traveling. So putting those learning experiences into use is just cool. Oh, there you go. Travel. If and when possible, travel to a country where they speak your language of interest. And I know not a lot of people have the opportunity to like travel, but if you are lucky and you can travel, this is a really great way to really just immerse yourself in a surrounding where they speak the language that you want to learn. You can meet native speakers, you can practice every single day because the way you interact with them would have to be in their native language. Learn about their culture too, and just have an amazing time. I think traveling is, with COVID, it has been really hard, but that's what makes it more rewarding,
Also, I was thinking the way that my parents learned English, they didn't know anything. Like at the graduating high school and they didn't know anything, and their parents just like send them here to the United States
Really?
to learn, and they didn't know any English at all, so they had to learn to be able to communicate with people, and they're pretty good now. They just like learn by coming here, being like,
You're like, huh?
So yeah, eventually they have to learn. So like, yeah. Okay, influencers. If you're into like social media and stuff, I think like following influencers that like post content in the language that you're practicing is very useful. And it can be like chefs that like just like show recipes, but it's like Italian, or like photographers who's like speak French and they just like put the descriptions of the pictures in French. It's just like another way again of like just being like familiar with the language and just like seeing it all the time.
Finding a good influencer is also really important, because I know there are some influencers who put subtitles in both their native language and English. So that's super helpful if you can find one of those.
Yeah.
Watch movies and TV shows. This is one of the most fun and entertaining ways to learn language. Like I said earlier, you would have subtitles on this. I actually started learning Korean by watching Korean dramas too, so that it helps a lot. And also English, watching a lot of like English American TV shows, it helps because they show daily conversations and what you would expect in real life when you try to communicate with like a native speaker.
Yeah, and so for this, like what you can do is like first maybe like put it in your native language, but like subtitles in the language that you're trying to learn, or like vice versa, and then you can like start just like without subtitles and just like in the language that you're trying to learn. And also for me, like personally, I would recommend like watching movies that are originally in that language, in the language that you're trying to learn, because that way they have like more of the slang, the common words. When like a translated movie is still good to learn, but it's not the same, because it's like the culture, I think culture and language are like very, very connected.
Yeah.
So like when you're like watching, I don't know, like an American movie, but it's like translated into French, it's a good way to learn, but it's not the same. So if you can find like a movie that it's made in the language that you're trying to learn, yeah, that's way better. Okay. So I think this is like a great way if you're like commuting or like going for a walk. Like for example, I walk to campus and it's like a 30-minute walk. So I actually like play my podcast, and you don't really have to like do anything. You just like walk and like listen.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a great way. Like you can either like find a podcast that's like to learn a language, or just a podcast about any other like topic, but that's in the language. So yeah, you don't have to like put in much effort. Just go and listen.
Yeah. Find a tutor. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had tutoring in a different language?
Me? Yeah, I've had. But it was very...
It was an interesting experience. Yeah. I don't know. I think it could be enjoyable. I think tutors nowadays try their best to make learning very fun. But it is a really great and structured way to learn a new language and become fluent, because you're going to want to try to find a tutor who is very expert, I guess, in the language that you're trying to learn, or a native speaker. That way you can ask them what their experiences are and like what their tips are in learning languages. They're just very knowledgeable people that you can always come to. And yeah, they have the experience that's necessary to know exactly what works and what doesn't work, and find the right tutor for you, because I know tutoring is not for everyone, but
yeah, I remember again when I was learning English, I had 2 tutors. So like one of them I didn't like at all, so I wouldn't learn anything. I was like, oh damn. But then I found one that was really good, and I like, and it's again, like they have the experience, they have the knowledge to teach you a language. That's what they do. So yeah, really think about it. And just as a side note, ALTEC does offer free language tutoring for I think Japanese, Russian, Spanish, ASL, and German. So if you're interested in that, go ahead. And it's also like a very, very beneficial thing, because another downside of tutor is that it might be like costly. Yeah, exactly. So it's so good that ALTEC has this free resource. Yeah. So yeah. Thank you for
And, yeah.
joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, wait, let's redo that. Okay. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email or, look through our website.
Yeah, drop by the Hive. It's in Helens.
Helms 159. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's still recording, I think.